Hey, what's up everybody? It's Onepeg. As soon as this video is live, I will be live, but I probably won't be playing Dark and Darker. I'm probably going to be playing Hardcore Tarkov, although Hardcore Tarkov is kind of a joke now, but I digress. There's your I digress for the video. We haven't had one of those in a while. Anyway, SDF made a big old announcement about some changes to the video game that we are going to get into. So, fixed a bunch of issues, changed in-game queue modes to solo and trio. SDF has brought solos back, but not in the way that you think. And I'm going to be a little bit mean in this video, kids, so, you know, buckle yourselves up. Improved scroll visibility in the Karma UI. They also modified random modifier values, plus all is back on the menu now, boys. So we've flopped back from the flip on that. And the damage ratios for each hitbox have been adjusted. Arms are now 80% from 90, hands are 70% from 90, legs are 60 from 85%, and feet are 50 from 85%. Almost reverted completely back to what they were before, with the exception of the head hitbox, which is still 200% for whatever reason. The lizard skin and lichen skins have both been slightly buffed to give a 15% damage reduction, up from 10%, because, to be quite honest, with the amount of armor buffs that most pieces of armor got in the video game, to not have increased the headshot damage reduction for the skins. I mean, this makes sense. They needed to do something for these skins because the skins were not going to get used. The not using a helmet until this got buffed didn't make any sense. And, you know, the lizard folks among us were feeling oppressed. But anyway, movement speed for feet equipment has been adjusted. Armor rating for plate armor has been slightly increased. And Warlock's Phantom Eyes has now flopped back from the flip back down to 5% from 10%, which should honestly have been done forever ago as soon as they made Phantom Eyes toggleable. Okay, this hotfix continues our quest to tune and rebuild the structure of the game. After reviewing the reintroduction of random modifiers, we realize we still have room to adjust them without breaking the system. To get us closer to our loot satisfaction level, we've improved the random modifiers for accessory items, so you can get plus all on jewelry again. Now, that being said, they're also saying that this is giving them more confidence. They feel like everything's moving in the right direction. The path that they're on is the right one, but they're bringing back solos. However, the problem with the solo game mode is that you can still team in the game mode, and it's being encouraged, which I don't understand. So what I mean by that is you can go up and press Y and do this, and somebody can say yes, and you can make yourself a team, and go make yourself a three-man. And now you are a trio in a solo queue, which doesn't make any sense. Why are we doing this? It's a solo experience. If people are queuing up as solos, mainly because they don't want to have to deal with other people other than fighting them, why are we allowing them the ability to create teams? We believe the best path forward is to incorporate our new learnings and improve balance to support different experiences that are solo versus having a party. We will be experimenting with the best ways to make this happen while avoiding the pitfalls of simplistic solo duo trio systems introduced. We are reintroducing solo queue, but for the first implementation, we'll be leaving the in-game party system enabled to encourage various social play. What various social play means, though, in this video game is you are just allowing people to literally create teams, and you've now put teaming on the menu for no reason. I don't understand the logic behind this. You're just creating trios with extra steps. Like, it doesn't make sense. If the point of the solo queue feels like it's just to go and like shake the hands of your buddies or whatever that you meet along the way, but if you're somebody that is notorious for teaming in the solo scenario, you're just giving them the green light to do this, like, with mechanics in the video game. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Why are we doing this? It's completely cooked. I can't get behind this. I think this was a dumb move. It does not make sense to me. If this is the quote-unquote vision moving forward, I cannot blame anyone for leaving in mass. And I think that the clown emotes in this case are absolutely justified. I do. Absolutely justified. That being said, kids, I say this from a position of love. I want the game to be good. I am remiss in seeing all of the repeated mistakes that get made with the design and development decisions. This is absolutely Iron Mace's game to screw up and ruin. They essentially had the entirety of the genre, like, by the cojones, and could have continued to just iterate on this and pull a Fortnite and make this game, this genre, be the leader of what this genre is supposed to be with this hack and slash extraction mechanic stuff. And yeah, I think they're screwing the pooch, man. For the time being, I think you guys will find me in other extraction games. I've been really enjoying Tarkov with the whole hardcore spin on it, although that's kind of sunset now, and it's kind of more just back to like how Tarkov used to be. But yeah, I'll be on that. If you guys want to see me fragging out and like shooting people in the face with an Obrez like this clip. Get shit on, bitch! Yeah, I guess we'll do that. And in the meantime, I'll keep updating you with everything having to do with this. Yesterday, Iron Mace was in court. Yesterday afternoon, they were in court to have their appeal heard over this one count that they were found guilty of. That was the reason why they got fined as much money as they did. To recap that, I don't know how the appeal turned out. I don't know if there was even a judgment made. It was just heard. It's probably going to take the judges a few days to figure out whether or not it's something that Iron Mace is going to win or not. What I was told was that the judges in this case were a little bit on the older side, so they don't really understand video games, which means that they have to do a very detailed job of explaining what's going on. For those of you that want to know, the whole thing has to do with this one count that they got found guilty of. They were cleared of everything else. There was like 8 separate counts or something, or well, 4 counts with a bunch of like subsections, and they were found guilty of a single subsection of one of the counts. They were found completely innocent of theft or stealing or informational theft of whatever kind. There was no source code. There was no assets. Anything that Iron Mace had been using, none of that was found to have been directly stolen from Iron Mace. What they were found guilty of was 2 pieces. The first was that they were working at Nexon at the time, and they were found guilty of remembering having worked there. Basically, the process by which they had utilized while working at Nexon and the game that they had been working at Nexon, the court basically determined that because they had worked at Nexon on Project P3 and they remembered what they had worked on at Nexon, that this game was in violation of some form of a trade secret because they mentally retained what they had worked on over the previous, I don't know, 9 months or whatever. The second thing was that in the very, very first complaint that Nexon had filed when they did their DMCA claim in the United States, they had laid out a bulleted list of the steps that needed to be taken in order to create a video game, from concept all the way down through to a completed product with all of the stages in between that included like peer reviews and like internally and green lights or not, and whether or not an executive was going to say yes, go ahead with this idea or not, etc., etc. And the court said since Iron Mace didn't follow Nexon's like very corporatized AAA level, like 1,000 employee hierarchies steps, because they were a 15-man indie studio at the time, because Iron Mace didn't follow that bulleted list to a T, they were found in violation of what would have been otherwise a trade secret, and the court basically determined that they could not have worked that fast had they come up with this idea completely from scratch. And since the steps were skipped and they worked on a faster timeline than Nexon was working, that created I don't know, a finable moment, and they were found guilty of that. So those 2 things. Now, I think that both of those could be very easily argued. The first, with having just remembered the time that they worked at Nexon, I don't really know if there's case precedent when it comes to Korean law. In the United States, there is. I've said this many, many, many times. There is a landmark case that happened in the early 2000s regarding the Bratz dolls, where the creator of Bratz had been working for Barbie, making clothing for Barbie, and sketched what would become the Bratz dolls on like notepad paper during corporate hours. And while they were working for Barbie, they went out and found outside investors, and those outside investors then, you know, brought them out and they created the Bratz dolls, and then Barbie sued them, saying that that was intellectual property that Mattel owned because he was working on the Bratz dolls while he was working for Barbie. And the U.S. courts like just laughed them out, and Mattel lost their ass, and Bratz was awarded everything and even got damages and the whole deal. So Bratz was completely free and clear. There's precedent now where basically like ideas and just remembering working at places is not the theft of trade secrets in the United States. but Korea is different. Also, the idea of like working on a faster timeline, hopefully they can do a good enough job arguing by just saying like small indie dev studio doesn't have to worry about email chains and finding directors to like approve things or focus groups and like all of this other jive. So I think that that's relatively easily explained if they can just show how their process worked. The other thing that they said was there was one other part where the court ruled in favor of Nexon by saying that Iron Mace was hiring people for roles in the company that didn't need to exist yet, and they had an idea of what game they wanted to create prior to hiring people into the company. Meaning, like, SDF knew the game that he wanted to make, and then they went and found people to make the game, as opposed to having a bunch of people hired into a room and then brainstorming on what game they wanted to make after, which is what Nexon did when they brought in a whole bunch of game devs and sat them in a boardroom and said, all right, now create a video game, which seems backward, right? Like, in most indie dev cases, they already have an idea of what kind of game they want to make. I can think of probably 50 examples of guys that created an indie dev studio wanting to make a very specific kind of game that they had noodling around in their head, and then went and made the game and iterated on that idea from the point of conception, which is usually how it goes. But anyway, yeah, so that is everything having to do with this. As soon as I find out what happened on the appeal side, I will let you guys know. We'll probably have a news article, or maybe I can get some info from the devs or whatever. But in the meantime, I'm going to go live and go play some Escape from Tarkov, and maybe I'll see you on stream. I would love to see you guys on stream. Come by and say hi. That would be really cool. If you don't want to do that, maybe sub the channel. That would be super great. Otherwise, maybe I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for lending me your eyeballs, everybody. We'll see you real soon. Peace.